Nikki Haley is officially out of the 2024 presidential race. The former South Carolina governor has suspended her campaign following what was a brutal Super Tuesday wipeout. She spoke in South Carolina earlier today, saying she has no regrets about her campaign. She refrained from endorsing former President Trump, but urged him to embrace her supporters.
It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that. At its best, politics is about bringing people into your cause, not turning them away. And our conservative cause badly needs more people. This is now his time for choosing.
CBS News campaign reporter Nidia Cavazos has been following the Nikki Haley campaign for us, and she was in the room during that announcement earlier today. Nidia, great to see you. Just take us inside. What was it like in the room as she announced the suspension of her campaign? It was an announcement we expected, but what was that moment like?
You know, throughout all these months that I've been out on the campaign trail covering Nikki Haley's events, there's something really unique about her events, and it's her playlist. And this is something that Haley had always asked her crowd. It was something that she was proud of. She would always ask her crowds, did you all enjoy it? Did you listen to my music? She was really big on music, and so was her team. And so what we got to know from these events is that there was a song, every song had a purpose, and it was intentional. And as we got to cover these events, we could pick up on the cue. Okay, this song means that she's going to be taking the stage in the next 2 minutes, or when she would walk off the stage, she would have particular songs. But today, what was really notorious about her event was that there was no music whatsoever. And as far as the reporters that we've been with her from for months now, that's the one thing we did notice. It was a very short speech, less than 7 minutes from when she took the stage to when she walked off, and there was no music whatsoever. And immediately after, you know, her team began taking down the flags, and began to take the podium down, and it just wrapped up, and just like that. So this was a moment. She walked off the stage, and that was it.
So in some ways, Nidia, it seems as though this is the first glimpse we're getting at a post-campaign Nikki Haley, right? No music, standing around flags with a very specific message. How significant then is her decision to not endorse Trump? It's usually the most natural outcome when a candidate does drop out. What does it mean for Trump, and what does it mean for what she will be up to until Election Day?
It was a very bold statement for Haley to give her remarks and her presidential bid, but without an official endorsement to former President Donald Trump. And this is Haley's parting gift, you know, parting way of saying, it's my way to go. She had no path forward after yesterday's brutal results in Super Tuesday, but it was also her way to say, I'm not necessarily supporting former President Donald Trump and his movement. And as far as how significant this is, well, we're left with the question, where do her voters go? Along these past couple of months on the campaign trail, this is a question we've always been asking voters. If it's not Nikki Haley, who do you support? And we've seen the change in, you know, how voters are fluctuating in their opinion at the beginning in the early voting states in Iowa, New Hampshire. We would come across the voters who were really sure about the fact that if it wasn't Haley, they were turning back to Trump. They're Republicans, and there's no negotiating there. But as we moved on to other states, such as Texas, for example, where we were at earlier this week, we have a lot of voters who are, in fact, saying that they're not necessarily going to be voting for Trump, but they don't want to vote for Biden because they're not Democrats. And so many are choosing just to simply sit this one out. We're hearing a combination of answers. We're also hearing a lot of independents saying, well, we're going to wait and see if there's a third-party candidate. Some of them even have mentioned RFK. And so really the big question is, where do her voters go? Do they stay within the Republican Party, turn to Biden, or just choose to sit it out?
Yeah, those Haley independent voters certainly up for grabs now. Nidia Cavazos, thanks very much. Senate Minority Leader Mitch MCConnell is endorsing Donald Trump for president. He made that announcement just moments after Nikki Haley said she was suspending her campaign. We can show you the statement the senator released, in which he says, in part, Quote, "It is abundantly clear that former President Trump has earned the requisite support of Republican voters to be our nominee for President of the United States. It should come as no surprise," the senator says, "that as nominee, he will have my full support." Let's bring in CBS News campaign reporter Taurean Small in Charlotte. A little bit rainy, got the umbrella for protection, always good. Taurean, how does the fact that former President Trump is now the only major Republican presidential candidate left change the Biden campaign's strategy? It almost seems like we're in a general election run now.
Yeah, and to quote Nikki Haley, this is going to be one of the longest general election campaigns in history. You could also argue, though, that the Biden administration has always had its sights set on Trump and figured that they would immediately go into general election mode from the start of this when you had such a wide field. But what we've seen differently since last night's results, especially after Nikki Haley announced that she's suspending her campaign this morning, the Biden campaign is looking to do outreach with those supporters, including those independent voters who might not be Republicans, but be willing to consider an alternative to Donald Trump. They said today that Donald Trump has made it clear that he does not want Haley supporters. I can imagine that moving forward, they will revisit some of the comments that Trump made about not welcoming them to MAGA if they supported Haley in the past. But the goal here is to expand his base, especially considering the dissent around his actions on or his stance on the Israel-Gaza conflict. We've seen in Michigan a brutal 20% of the electorate there voting for uncommitted instead of Biden. So he's going to have to play catch up here, refigure his base in order to ensure that he at least has Democrats in lockstep going into this general election battle.
Yeah, Taurean, for an incumbent like Biden, the primary and caucus season is more about a gauge of enthusiasm and support among the base. You mentioned some of his Super Tuesday performance. Considering there were some weak spots, how confident do Democrats feel about the general election?
Yeah, very confident. They see this matchup of Trump and Biden as a repeat of 2020 in many ways. The difference, though, is there now are two former presidents. They have two records that voters could choose from. But Biden is looking to not just defend his battleground states that he won in 2020. He's now looking to pick up other states like North Carolina, where I am today. I talked to the chair of North Carolina Democratic Party, and she said because this is a purple state and Trump just narrowly won in 2020, there could be inroads Biden can make to flip this state this time. Take a listen to what she had to say.
We are a 50-50 state. You've got Donald Trump winning the same year that a Democratic governor wins. We've won the last 8 out of 8 attorney generals races for the Democratic Party, the last 7 out of 8 governors races for the Democratic Party in North Carolina. It is a battleground state. Now, getting the resources and the energy and the people on the ground that we need, the boots on the ground that we need to actually make this state turn out. North Carolina is not a persuasion state problem, we're a turnout state problem. And that means we've got to get out to every single voter to let them know they've got someone to vote for this year.
Like the chair mentioned there, Anderson Clayton, this might be an issue of turnout. Excitement could be there, but the ground game has to be there as well to inspire as many people as possible to go out and vote. What could cause that to happen or be a crucial factor in that happening are those down ballot races, including the governor's race. You have the current lieutenant governor and the current attorney general facing off in November. Whether or not they will help Biden or Biden will help them for the Democrats is yet to be seen.
All right, all very interesting stuff. Taurean Small, we appreciate the update. Thanks very much.